So, when you ask the question, what would be the motivation or what would there be to gain by faking the shape of the Earth, the answer will always be money or control based. But honestly, you'll never control mankind with the shape of the Earth, and you'll definitely never top the control of religious belief. So control wouldn't really be a plausible motivator, so we'll concentrate on the money. Let's examine the earning potential of a global hoax. Ask a conspiracy believer exactly how would it be achieved and what is the earning potential. If you get a rational answer, you'll get one of only two answers. I call the two of them the big lie and the big fake. First, we'll concentrate on the big lie, because this one's the easiest. The big lie is basically explained as everyone who has to do with the conspiracy is in on the conspiracy and is 100% loyal to keeping it a secret. This means that an incredible amount of folks need to be involved, as well as larger companies and organizations. Propulsion companies, aeronautics companies, chemical companies, medical companies, physics companies, electronics companies, special manufacturing companies, media companies, and general science companies. And that's to say nothing of foreign and domestic political organizations. And even if they were all only fronts for the hoax, the people involved would still need to exist. Literally over 1 million people would need to be involved. And you would not only have to pay them for their silence, which if you had 1 million people and your $19 billion budget could only afford to give them about $1,600 a month equally to keep your secret without even paying yourself first, seems a bit far-fetched. And let's not forget, the big lie claim means that not one of those million-plus folks have ever needed money enough to expose the secret, or never had some kind of moral epiphany. So basically, the big lie explanation would neither function nor be profitable for anyone. So that's completely out. Which leads us to the big fake explanation. The big fake explanation is simple. Only a few folks are actually in on the hoax. Everyone else is performing their jobs as if the fictitious events were real. Basically building cars for a race that'll never happen. The big fake is a safer method as far as keeping the secret safe. But let's see what that would actually cost. First, you have to offer kickbacks and grease a few palms in the Senate in order to get a big budget approval in the first place. And votes like that cost a lot of money. Then you need contractors. You need people to assemble the whole set for the big show. You will have to pay contractors to build the actual rockets, build the actual satellites, build the spacesuits, write the software, make the food, train the astronauts, maintain the launch sites, produce the fuels, and so much more. So there goes a lot of money. Then you have to keep a bunch of people quiet. It's time to pay off those who can prove you wrong. And no, I don't mean conspiracy theorists on YouTube. I mean the multinational professional organizations, corporations, universities, contractors, and even small companies or entrepreneurs who actually work in the fields of aeronautics, chemistry, physics, and even medicine, who could clearly display before the whole world that you are performing something impossible. Not to mention the astronauts themselves, the majority of whom came from other legitimate professions to become astronauts. You would also have to pay them heavily, as nobody would know better that they didn't go anywhere than the astronauts themselves. Now we have to simulate everything for every citizen of our planet. You need to build a global infrastructure of simulation stations and components and get them to function in every country of the world. You need to install and operate fake GPS to every citizen in the world by installing the transmission equipment everywhere, in every country, and even across the ocean. You need to install and operate fake satellite TV transmission towers and make the secret deals with the providers to use the towers in the first place. You will need to install and operate fake satellite internet and telephone services. You will need to install and operate a fleet of aircraft, maritime and terrestrial-based radar and photographic systems to fake daily weather satellite images and their loops and their videos. Then you'll need to pay the folks to maintain all that equipment to the tune of 100% reliability in every country. So there goes another huge chunk of cash. And now it's on to public relations. Your fakery is not done yet. You need public support and national pride to keep this all going, fooling the average Joe. You need to be able to maintain the physical and predictable visuals of satellites and the ISS from the casual observer to the proud amateur astronomer on a global scale without fail. You will need to consistently pay a production company to film the green screen astronauts, and since they will be people who know your secret they're going to have to get paid pretty heavily. You'll have to spend many hours in a zero-G type aircraft, faking experiments and floating the astronauts, because let's face it, a green screen isn't always going to do it for you. You have to produce and film those pesky spacewalks, which are watched by enthusiasts hours on end, and those sets would have to be expensive to maintain, not to mention all the divers and CGI artists, and they don't come cheap anyway, especially not on the down low. And let's not forget, you actually need to launch the big rockets. Of course, since it's a hoax, you don't need them to go anywhere, but they still have to successfully launch, make a lot of noise, take that big rocket up high and far away so that even the best cameras have a hard time seeing it. TV shows, press conferences, live ISS to ground interviews. Faking a space program is probably going to cost more than having a space program in the first place. Go figure. And now we got to make sure we cover everything up. Of course, there's a few basic things you're going to have to accomplish here. You need to dispose of the launched rockets. You need to dispose of the faked satellites, which were built by companies who thought that they were actually building satellites that were going to space. Now, while all that can be costly, it's not all that bad. But then you also have to have a whole slew of folks on the prowl to provide feasible explanations for, well, everything. From public speakers to even folks like me who debunk hoaxers and conspiracy theorists online. And let's not forget, you're also going to have a black ops crew to take out anyone who potentially has tangible proof and can expose your lie. And all these things got to get paid for. And finally, we get to your overhead. Now you have to pay for your staff. In this case, NASA employees. And they don't come cheap. Most are at the top of their field. And most of them would actually have to be in on the fakery. So they would be basically partners, making them even more expensive. So their pay would have to be substantial. Some, even in the millions. And to be honest, if you paid them all $1 million a year to keep this a secret, that's 18,000 folks. That would be most of your budget right there, just paying people before you just paid for everything else back there. Plus you have facility costs and security and maintenance and aircraft and boats and vehicles and electricity and water and trash and oh my god. So now let's move in to cash in on this lucrative hoax. By the time you get your net profit, there's little, if nothing, left. And oftentimes, it's actually in the minus. And since you're not going to be alone in this venture, you'll have to split that small amount of money, or even debt, with your partners. So ultimately, it's not going to get you much, if anything. All of a sudden, that $19 billion budget, which is really only about 0.5% of the national budget, ain't all that big. In fact, if you were to compare it to numbers that you and I would understand, if you had a $100 grocery bill, NASA costs about as much as a pack of gum. So, neither the big lie nor the big fake are plausible or even affordable ways to make money. Y'all have a nice day.
Oh my god.